Hey everybody, and welcome to our 5th video session on support for the caregiver series. I really hope that you have been watching the videos and you have enjoyed getting to chat with each other. Today is going to be a little bit different in that I am taking a compassion fatigue and self-care workshop that I have developed, and I'm offering it to you guys in hopes that we can learn some more strategies on taking care of self and maybe recognizing some of the challenges that we face as caregivers, but also on how we can better manage those things. So let me just start by sharing my screen here, and we will get started on that. Sorry guys, hang on. There we go. So this is just a little slideshow, of course, as always. What you're going to need for this portion, if you have, I don't know if you have a little piece of rope, maybe that's about a foot long. Shoelaces don't tend to work, or if you have a scarf, also that might work. So just keep that handy. You will also need a pen, pencil, marker, crayon, whatever you have handy, and as always, some paper. So compassion fatigue. So this is what I've come up with for you guys. And when we have a chance to chat, we can just speak to this a little bit and see if you can relate to any of this. That what makes us good at what we do is also what makes it challenging. We are natural caregivers, and compassion fatigue is the cost of caring too much. Compassion fatigue also has a sneaky way of creeping up into your life. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the signs and symptoms of compassion fatigue. But first, in order for us to get to that point, we want to look at stress. And now there must be an increased stress in your life. So just have a look at some of these everyday life stressors. Of course, they're going to be different for everybody. But if there are things in your world that happen on a daily basis that provoke a little bit of a stress response in you, I would encourage you to write those down. So I'm going to get you to write down some of the things that are very stressful for you on a day-to-day basis. These are just some examples: getting enough rest, cleaning your home, and you kind of get the idea. So here's the first exercise. I've prepared a little bit of a list for you, and when you have your list prepared, you may want to pause this video at this time. What I'm going to get you to do is to rate on a scale of 1 to 5 each of your stressors on a day-to-day basis. 1 being really little to no stress at all, and 5 being it's extremely stressful and it's really weighing heavy on your mental and emotional state. So once you have all of those completed and rated, what I would like you to then do is count up how many number 4s you have and how many number 5s you have. Once you have all your 4s and 5s, I'm going to get you to take your piece of rope And I would like you to really look at your piece of rope. Notice how long it is and how much space you have on that rope. Now, with every 4 and every 5, I want you to tie a knot in your rope. Really look at what's happening to your rope. Notice any feelings that are coming up inside of you, maybe physically or emotionally. Are you experiencing any kind of response by adding those knots to your rope? For those of you who don't have many 4s and 5s, well done. For those of you who have lots of 4s and 5s, that's okay. That just means that there's a little bit of work to do. So you may have noticed that your rope has gotten smaller. And how does that feel? And all of a sudden, something happens in your world, something unexpected. The car breaks down, or you have a pipe that has leaked in your house, or you've had a death in the family. It can be anything that's quite unexpected. And if you look at your rope, and if you've gone from this much rope to this much rope on a day-to-day stress basis, how much do you have left to be able to manage the unforeseen circumstances? Not a whole lot. The idea behind that exercise is to really give you a tangible experience to show you that it's so important to manage our stress on a day-to-day basis so that we have enough space within self to be able to deal with things that come up unexpected. This is another little exercise, and again, you don't have to do this, but it's a really good tool. I know I am under stress when, and then you can also pause this video and go through this. It gives you some thoughts or some suggestions on some stress reducers. When I see that I am irritable, I go for a walk for however many minutes. So it's challenging you to be as specific as possible. So we have our day-to-day stress that happens, and if we're not dealing with that, and then we have something unpredicted that's going to happen, that's going to compound our stress and make it a little bit more challenging to deal with. This is where compassion fatigue sneaks in on you. If you are already feeling very overwhelmed with life, the stresses of the new roles that you've had to take on as a caregiver, the unpredictable nature with your loved one, if that's something that you're dealing with, having to juggle all of these balls in the air. Compassion fatigue is the emotional residue that we get when we work with others who are suffering. So what we do as caregivers is we give all of our emotional support to other people. And then what happens is that there's nothing left for ourselves. And it can actually be a little bit dangerous in that you fall into this pit and maybe not understanding why. So having this education around compassion fatigue is quite empowering. Here are some things to look for in a physical sense. Having difficulty sleeping. Maybe you're having more headaches. You're physically becoming ill. You're doing less exercise. You're not able to enjoy things in life. There are other physical things. If you're used to doing certain things and you just find yourself not doing it anymore, question why. Here are some emotional or psychological symptoms to look for. You have a hairpin trigger when it comes to anger. You have no self-esteem or loss of self-esteem. You are worrying so much about the person who is in need. You're feeling very overwhelmed with everything. You're having nightmares. And sometimes you just throw your hands up and you just don't have the ability to help anymore. You're just done. So we've talked about the physical, we've talked about the emotional and psychological, and this is the behavioral piece. So if you are currently working, maybe you have increased sick days. If you're not currently working, maybe you are staying inside more often. Now, because of what we're doing here with this pandemic, we're being forced to stay inside. So it would be really, really important for you to be mindful during this time with as far as your physical and your emotional and psychological symptoms. Increased alcohol or drug use, and challenges with personal and professional relationships. Maybe your relationship with your sister or brother or whoever would typically be close to you, are you withdrawing from that relationship? Are you snapping at them? Do you not have time for them anymore? These are just really basic things that you may not recognize as symptoms of compassion fatigue. But all of those compounded together really put you at risk if they're not managed. So how do we get to be compassion fatigued? It's our personal coping style or lack thereof. It's all of the trauma exposure. There's a lot of that happening right now. It could be your lifestyle, your personal history too, or your social context. That's how we got there. And here's what we do about it. So we've discovered through education that compassion fatigue really does exist, and it is the cost of caring too much. It truly is. If we don't care for ourselves, how can we possibly care for others? There would just be nothing left in the tank for ourselves. So we have to step back and evaluate. What are we noticing within our world? What do we need to change? Who do we have for support? And remembering to do things that make you feel good. So essentially, all of the videos that have come before this really gives you an overall idea of the really important work that you're doing and the potential outcome if we don't take care of ourselves. So the awareness is really important. Self-awareness is key here. The more we know, the more we're able to develop strategies to prevent or balance or cope and support ourselves and others who may experience it as well. So giving yourself this education piece will really help you in noticing some of these symptoms in others too. So it's really lovely when you're surrounding yourself with other caregivers and you notice maybe some of the behavioral or emotional, psychological, physical changes in them. That may be a red flag for you and say, whoa, I wonder what's happening with them. And it's really good to check in to say, here's what I'm noticing. Is everything okay? Is there anything that I can do to help? Always making sure that you are feeling well to be able to offer that too. So next we're going to just jump into self-care. We're going to talk what it is, why it's important, and how do we do it. What is self-care? It's a healthy experience that you give yourself with the intent of recharging your battery to release some of that ick that is caused by stress. So you really have to think about what do you like to do for you that brings you joy? And it's going to be different for everybody. Some people work out. I don't. For me, it is taking some time to go down to the beach and stick my toes in the sand. For others, it's baking. Maybe they read a book, painting. It can be anything that is a release for you. This is important. It's something that brings you joy and allows you to make you the priority. You have to be number one. Like I said earlier, in order to do the best job you can with others, you need to give yourself that same support. Self-care is not selfish. Often I will hear that as a reason why people won't go and take a bath if that's something that they do to recharge their batteries. Well, I can't do that because, so-and-so needs me, or that's really selfish. I can't take myself out to dinner because that's really selfish. And I would argue that, because I'm going to sound like a broken record, but taking care of you has to be the priority. It has to. This is also really important, and I not worry, but I wonder, I guess, if substance misuse is on the rise because of this pandemic. But if you are using alcohol to de-stress, please be mindful of that. If you're using drugs to de-stress, just be very mindful of it. One glass of wine in an evening, maybe 1 or 2 nights a week, may not be a problem. But if you're having 1 or 2 glasses of wine every day to calm yourself down, I would dig a little deep into that and ask yourself, why is that substance helping you in that way, and what can we do instead of that? Find another way, reach out, ask for support. Why is self-care important? Because it's preventative. You want to talk about strategies to help alleviate some stress and to create healthy relationships. And really what it boils down to is that taking care of yourself is preventative. You will have way more in the tank if you feel good. If you're feeling well and feeling ready, with a take charge kind of attitude, then you're going to be able to do a pretty good job of caring for others. Not perfect all of the time, but self-care reminds you that you matter and that you are important. Because that's true. Look at all of the things you've been through. You have done amazing things as a caregiver, and you continue to do amazing things as a caregiver. And just as important as those loved ones are, you are equally as important, and you should afford yourself the time and the grace to be able to put yourself first. Self-care is healthy. There's just no way around it. It gives us permission to take a time out too, because sometimes you're just going to feel a little bit overwhelmed and you go, I just need a timeout. I need to go take 5 minutes. Another practice that I do is I have little lifesavers, and I will unwrap them and I'll put it in my mouth and I will fight the urge to crunch it. Because you know, sometimes you put a little candy in your mouth and you just want to crunch it just to get it over with. What I do now is I put it into my mouth and I savor the whole thing and I see how thin that I can get it. And I'm very mindful about that lifesaver in my mouth. That's my timeout. Other people use a raisin, many different things that you can use for a little timeout. Self-care reminds us to be aware of our own needs and to value them, because you're worth it. You've worked hard. You continue to work hard. And how do we do it? Well, first you need to figure out what brings you joy or what gives you those feel-good emotions. So it could be a memory from whenever at an amusement park, or you were apple picking with your family or whatever. Super important to just sit down with that memory, literally close your eyes. We've talked about this before, and visualize that whole experience. Who was there? What were you wearing? What were you doing? What was the feeling that you had? Your body will remember that feeling and release all of those feel-good hormones again. The power of the brain is amazing. The next thing you need to do is to write down all of your ideas with the intention of benefiting your overall wellness. So if you were to write down your top 3 things that you love to do for you, what would they be? What do you need to be able to make that happen? What do you need to be able to make that happen? Because we want to make sure that we are managing self, because we don't want compassion fatigue to creep in and take over. It happens very quick. Sometimes people will go to the doctor and just say, I'm just done. I'm exhausted. I don't have enough. I'm feeling sick. I'm feeling stressed. And that's when a number of people go on stress leave. Depression may sink in. If you are already susceptible to mental illness, things may be heightened at that time. So it's really important for you to take care of yourself and to really figure out what it is that brings you joy, and write it down. Get it out of here and onto something concrete, because it'll help hold you accountable too. So the next thing is, we've thought about what we want to do. We've written down what we're going to do, some ideas, and now I want you to pick one thing. Because all of these strategies, everybody, are not meant to add to the stress. And if you feel like it's adding to the stress, then it's going to be counterproductive. So all of these exercises that we go through together are really meant to help you reflect. They are meant to help propel you forward and continue on this beautiful journey of caregiving in the easiest way for you possible. So I want you to pick that idea, pick one of those ideas and put it into action. And when we meet again, I'd like anybody to share their experience and what did it feel like. And you don't necessarily have to share what you did, because again, this is private. You share what you want to, but I'd be curious to know some more ideas on what other people do for self-care. This is just a little thing that I threw in here for you guys to, it's connecting our emotional state to our body state, and then it helps us understand the underlying need. So I won't go through this with you, but certainly you can feel free to pause this at this point and go through it and do it on your own. Again, it's not meant to stress you out, please. It's just another tool for you to use. Put it in your toolbox to know that you have some things at the ready should you need to regroup. So here are my final thoughts, and something that I would recommend that you say to yourself every day. I will respond to myself with compassion. And when you say that, how do you feel about that? My needs and feelings count too. I will treat myself as kindly as I treat others. Oftentimes as caregivers, these things don't come to the forefront. And this is just a really good reminder for you that you should be at the forefront and do whatever you can to get yourself there without guilt, without stress, because that's kind of defeating the purpose, right? I want, just going to stop sharing the screen here for a second. There we go. I want everyone to know what a great job that you are doing, and that your loved ones that you have cared for, although it may not feel like it sometimes, really do appreciate you and all that you've done for them. They wouldn't be where they are today without you. Take some time for you to breathe. I really look forward to seeing you again. I have one more video for you guys, and then it'll be our last meeting. As always, it's an honor and a privilege to share this experience with you. And we'll see you soon. Have a beautiful day.